story of Otto the Great is one that echoes through the corridors of time, a tale of power, ambition, and an unwavering will to shape the future of a fractured Europe. Imagine a world where the shadow of Rome still lingered, where kingdoms and principalities vied for control amidst the ruins of a once mighty empire. It was in this turbulent landscape that a young prince rose, not just to claim a throne, but to craft a legacy that would transform the very fabric of the Holy Roman Empire. This is the story of Otto, a king who would become an emperor, and whose reign forever altered the course of medieval Europe. Otto was not just a ruler, he was a visionary, a man who saw the potential for unity where others saw only discord. His rise to power was not easy, nor was it inevitable. Born into a time of uncertainty, Otto would have to rely on his wit, his courage, and his ability to forge alliances in a world where loyalty was fleeting and betrayal was just a whispered word away. Through battles and diplomacy, through strategic marriages and bold decisions, Otto transformed a patchwork of territories into an empire that would stand the test of time. Welcome to ASMR History, where I explore the fascinating lives of history's most influential figures and the key events that shaped our world. Today, I invite you to relax as we journey through the life of Otto the Great, a king whose ambitions shaped not only the destiny of Germany, but also the wider medieval world. As I whisper through the pages of history, you'll discover how Otto's reign laid the foundation for a unified Holy Roman Empire, and how his legacy still reverberates centuries later. To set the mood, let's reflect on the words of Widukind of Corvey, a chronicler from Otto's time, who wrote, "Otto, with the wisdom of a ruler and the strength of a lion, forged a new empire." Let that quote resonate as we dive into this fascinating chapter of history. Before we embark on Otto's epic tale, don't forget to subscribe to the ASMR History Hub and hit the like button if you enjoy these relaxing historical journeys. Your support helps me continue to bring the past to life with every whisper. Now, to truly understand Otto's greatness, we must first look at where it all began. His early life. Born into the powerful Ludolfing dynasty, Otto's path to power was shaped by both privilege and peril. His father, King Henry the Fowler, laid the groundwork for a unified German kingdom. But it would be Otto who carried this legacy forward, navigating a world rife with rivalries and rebellions. Let's explore Otto's rise to power and uncover the moments that forged him into the leader who would one day be known as the Great. Otto the Great's journey to power began with a birth that would forever shape the destiny of medieval Europe. In 912 AD, in the heart of Saxony, Otto was born to King Henry the Fowler and Queen Matilda. His father Henry was a ruler of fierce determination and strategic brilliance, and his mother Matilda was known for her piety and wisdom. Otto's childhood was marked by the weight of expectation as his father was not just a king, but the first monarch to begin uniting the fractured Germanic kingdoms under a single banner. For Otto, these early years were a time of preparation, of learning what it meant to be both a warrior and a statesman in a world that demanded strength and cunning from its leaders. From an early age, Otto was deeply influenced by the legacy of his father. Henry the Fowler had not inherited a stable kingdom. The German lands were a collection of territories ruled by powerful dukes, often more interested in their own ambitions than the stability of the realm. On top of this, external threats loomed large. The Magyar horsemen, fierce warriors from the east, had been raiding the heart of Europe, and Henry knew that without strong defences, his kingdom would fall. Otto watched as his father skillfully negotiated with these restless dukes, forging alliances when necessary, and crushing rebellion when diplomacy failed. But most importantly, Otto saw how his father prepared the kingdom for the Magyar threat, building fortresses and organising a defensive network that would prove invaluable in the years to come. Henry's reign was more than just a lesson in warfare. It was also a demonstration of the importance of political unity. For Otto, the task ahead would be to take his father's vision even further, transforming a kingdom of loosely allied territories into a cohesive empire. As a boy, Otto received a military and political education that was second to none, learning the art of war alongside the intricacies of diplomacy. His father's court was a place of constant activity, filled with warriors, advisors, and foreign envoys, all of whom played a role in shaping the young prince into the ruler he would become. When Henry the Fowler passed away in 936 AD, Otto was ready to step into his father's shoes, but the task of ruling was not a simple one. His coronation took place in Aachen, the very city where Charlemagne, the great emperor of the Franks, had ruled centuries before. The weight of Charlemagne's legacy was not lost on Otto. He was crowned King of Germany in a grand ceremony that tied his reign to the ancient imperial tradition, signalling to all that Otto intended to restore the glory of a united Christian empire. But Otto's reign was not immediately secure. Almost from the moment he took the throne, he faced challenges to his authority. The German dukes, fiercely independent and protective of their own power, were not eager to submit to a central ruler. Among them was Eberhard of Franconia, a man who had no intention of allowing Otto to rule unchallenged. Eberhard, along with other powerful nobles, launched rebellions aimed at undermining Otto's authority. In these early years of his reign, Otto's grip on power seemed tenuous at best. There were moments when it appeared that the kingdom might fracture once again, falling back into the disunity that had plagued it before his father's reign. But Otto was not a man easily deterred. He faced these challenges head-on, using a combination of force and diplomacy to subdue his rivals. One by one, the rebellious dukes were either brought to heel or replaced by men loyal to the crown. Otto understood true power came not just from winning battles, but from creating a network of loyal vassals who would uphold the authority of the king. He placed trusted family members and allies in key positions across the kingdom, ensuring that his rule would be enforced in even the most distant territories. In doing so, Otto laid the groundwork for a new era of centralized power, where the authority of the king was not something to be questioned lightly. Yet Otto's ambitions stretched far beyond merely securing his throne. He had seen the devastation caused by the Magyar raids during his father's reign, and he knew that the survival of his kingdom depended on eliminating this threat once and for all. Otto's mind was constantly turning toward the future, toward a kingdom that was not just united, but strong enough to repel any foreign invasion. His early struggles against the dukes had strengthened him, taught him how to maneuver through the dangerous waters of medieval politics. Now, with his domestic enemies subdued, Otto's eyes turned outward toward the looming Magyar threat that had plagued Europe for decades. The Magyar horsemen, with their swift and brutal raids, had been a constant terror on the eastern borders of Otto's realm. For years, they had sacked towns, burned villages, and carried off countless prisoners, leaving devastation in their wake. To secure his legacy and ensure the future of his kingdom, Otto knew he would have to confront this menace head on. The stage was set for one of the most decisive moments in Otto's life, one that would solidify his reputation as a warrior king. As Otto prepared to face the Magyars, a fateful battle was on the horizon, one that would determine not just the survival of his kingdom, but the future of Europe itself. The Battle of Lechfeld was coming, and with it, Otto would either rise as the saviour of Christendom, or see his empire crumble beneath the weight of the Magyar onslaught. The Magyar threat loomed like a storm over 10th century Europe. Fierce and relentless, these nomadic horsemen from the steppes of Central Asia had made the very soil of Europe tremble beneath their hooves. Their raids were swift and brutal, striking deep into the heartlands of Otto's empire, leaving nothing but smoke and ruin in their wake. Villages burned, cities were sacked, and countless lives were taken or enslaved. To the people of Otto's realm, the Magyars were an unstoppable force, a nightmare from the east. Their incursions into Otto's territories posed an existential threat, not just to his reign, but to the very survival of his people. The Magyars were masters of guerrilla warfare, known for their lightning-fast raids. They would appear as if from nowhere, descending on their targets with devastating speed, only to vanish back into the shadows before any organised defence could be mustered. Europe had struggled against this menace for decades, with kingdoms falling to their onslaught, unable to mount an effective resistance. Otto, now king of a fractured and fragile Germany, knew that the time had come to end this scourge once and for all. Failure meant plains of Christendom itself. In the summer of 955 AD, as reports of yet another Magyar raid reached his court, Otto made the fateful decision that would define his legacy. The invaders had crossed the Danube River and were heading toward the city of Augsburg. Otto's forces, though formidable, were far from unified. He would need to rally the German dukes, many of whom had only recently submitted to his rule, and unite them under his banner if he were to stand a chance against the Magyar horde. The challenge was immense, but Otto had never shied away from impossible odds. The Battle of Lechfeld, fought on August 10th, 955, was not just a clash of armies, it was a battle for the soul of Europe. Otto, in a brilliant display of leadership, not only gathered his forces, but inspired them to fight with a fervour few had ever seen. His tactical acumen was on full display as he organised his army into a formidable defence, positioning his heavy cavalry where they could deliver a crushing blow to the enemy. The Magyars, accustomed to facing uncoordinated defences, were now up against a king who had studied their tactics, who knew how to counter their mobility and chaos with discipline and strategy. As the two forces met on the plains of Lechfeld, the tension was palpable. Otto, seated atop his horse, watched as the Magyar horsemen began their approach. Their arrows rained down upon the German forces, but Otto's soldiers held their ground. Whispering commands, Otto orchestrated his army with precision, directing his forces to withstand the initial assault, knowing that the time to strike would come soon enough. In the thick of battle, the sound of steel clashing against steel rang out across the battlefield, and Otto's calm presence amidst the chaos rallied his troops. The tide of battle shifted when Otto led a decisive cavalry charge, crashing into the Magyar ranks with devastating force. The Magyar horsemen, so accustomed to outmanoeuvring their enemies, found themselves trapped and unable to retreat. Otto had outsmarted them at every turn, using the terrain and his forces to their fullest potential. The once feared invaders were soon in full retreat, their ranks broken, their morale shattered. The Magyars, who had once terrorised Europe, were now fleeing in disarray, never to return as a threat. The victory at Lechfeld was not just a military triumph, it was a moment of divine significance for Otto and his people. To the medieval mind, this was not just a battle won by strategy and steel, but by divine favour. Otto was now seen as the saviour of Christendom, the protector of the faithful, a king who had been chosen by God to deliver his people from destruction. The chroniclers of the time, such as the Annals of Fulda, immortalised Otto's heroism, writing, "As the Magyars advanced, the king stood firm, his banner like a shield before the people." This battle marked the turning point in Otto's reign. His victory over the Magyars not only secured his rule, but also solidified his place in history as a protector of the Christian faith. fractured Germany. He was now a symbol of unity and strength, a leader who could rally the disparate Germanic tribes under one banner. The defeat of the Magyars ended their raids into Europe and allowed Otto to turn his attention inward, focusing on the consolidation of his empire. But the victory at Lechfeld was only the beginning. Otto's ambitions stretched far beyond securing his borders. He knew that to maintain his newfound authority, he would need to strengthen his hold over both his people and the church. Otto had always understood the power of religion in medieval society, and now, in the wake of his victory, he would use that power to further cement his influence. His reign would become synonymous not only with military might, but also with religious patronage and reform. The church had long been a cornerstone of political power in Europe, and Otto was determined to ensure that the church worked in tandem with his rule. As we explore Otto's consolidation of power, we will see how he deftly navigated the relationship between the crown and the clergy, establishing a legacy that would influence the Holy Roman Empire for centuries to come. Through alliances with key religious figures and the promotion of monastic reform, Otto sought to create a kingdom that was both spiritually and politically unified. After the Battle of Lechfeld, Otto the Great emerged not just as a warrior king, but as a ruler determined to unite and strengthen his realm. His victory over the Magyars had granted him the reputation of a saviour, but Otto understood that military triumph alone would not secure his reign. The Germanic territories, though loyal for the moment, were still a patchwork of powerful duchies, each ruled by men who had ambitions of their own. Otto knew that to build a lasting empire, he needed to consolidate his power, reduce the influence of these independent lords, and centralize authority under the crown. The German dukes, proud and fiercely independent, had long enjoyed a level of autonomy that threatened any central ruler's control. Otto's solution was both strategic and personal. He appointed members of his own family to key positions, ensuring that loyalty was kept close. His son, Ludolf, became Duke of Swabia, while his brothers and nephews were entrusted with other influential duchies. By placing his relatives in positions of power, Otto created a network of trust, a web of alliances that kept the most powerful regions of his kingdom under his watchful eye. He understood that to rule effectively, he needed both military might and a strong political foundation, one built on loyalty to the crown rather than on regional interests. But Otto's ambitions went beyond mere political control. He recognized the immense influence of the church in medieval society. In a time when kings ruled by divine right, Otto understood that aligning himself with the church would not only strengthen his rule, but give it a sense of divine legitimacy. His relationship with the Catholic Church was carefully cultivated. He became a patron of monasteries and abbeys, endowing them with wealth and land. Otto positioned himself as the protector of the faith, clergy and his people. In return, the church became one of his strongest allies, offering spiritual support that reinforced his political authority. It was this close alliance with the church that led to one of the most profound cultural shifts of Otto's reign, the Ottonian Renaissance. Under his rule, Europe saw a revival of learning, art, and architecture that had not been seen since the days of Charlemagne. Otto, deeply influenced by the Carolingian legacy, encouraged the development of schools and the copying of ancient manuscripts. Monasteries became centres of intellectual life, preserving knowledge and promoting education. In the cities, new cathedrals rose, symbols of both the church's influence and Otto's patronage. His court became a beacon of culture, attracting scholars, artists, and architects who helped shape the intellectual landscape of his reign. Yet Otto's involvement with the church was not without controversy. While he worked to promote learning and religious devotion, he also sought to reform the clergy, a move that would have far-reaching consequences. Corruption among the clergy was rampant, with many bishops more interested in wealth and power than in spiritual matters. Otto believed that the moral strength of the church was essential to the strength of his kingdom, and he took it upon himself to reform the institution from within. His efforts were bold, even daring, as he began to assert his control over the appointment of bishops. This move was not just about religious reform, but about securing political power. By controlling who held key ecclesiastical positions, Otto could ensure that the church worked in concert with his rule rather than against it. It was a delicate balance, one that brought him into conflict with some members of the clergy, but ultimately strengthened his grip on both church and state. Perhaps the pinnacle of Otto's reign came in 962 AD, when he was crowned Holy Roman Emperor by Pope John XIV. This moment, rich in symbolism, marked the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire, a political and spiritual entity that linked the legacy of ancient Rome with the Christian world of medieval Europe. For Otto, it was the ultimate validation of his rule. The crown placed upon his head was not just a sign of earthly power, it was seen as a divine seal, proof that Otto's reign was blessed by God himself. As Dietmar of Merseburg, a chronicler of the time, would later write, the crown placed upon his brow was the seal of heaven's favour, for in Otto the divine and the earthly were united. Otto's coronation as emperor solidified his dominance over both the church and the secular world. No longer was he just the king of Germany. He was now the emperor of an entity that aspired to unite all of Christendom under one ruler. This newfound imperial status brought with it new responsibilities, but Otto rose to the challenge, continuing to promote peace and unity across his empire. His influence stretched far beyond the borders of Germany, and his title as Holy Roman Emperor cemented his role as the protector extended beyond his own kingdom. Italy, with its wealth and strategic importance, had long been a source of conflict and intrigue for German kings. Otto's imperial ambitions led him south, where the political and religious landscape of Italy would provide both challenges and opportunities. The papacy, often caught in its own internal struggles, would soon look to Otto for protection, drawing him deeper into the complex web of Italian politics. But in this new theatre of power, Otto would need to navigate the delicate balance of diplomacy and conflict if he were to maintain his imperial legacy. Otto the Great's ambitions did not stop at the borders of Germany. His gaze turned south toward Italy, a land rich in culture, wealth, and influence. Italy was a region where political power and religious authority intertwined in a delicate dance, and Otto knew that to solidify his reign as Holy Roman Emperor, he would need to assert his control over this coveted land. His entry into Italian politics came through a strategic marriage that would not only expand his influence, but also lead to a series of conflicts and alliances that would shape the course of his empire. In 951 AD, Otto married Adelaide of Italy, a move that forever changed the trajectory of his reign. Adelaide, the widow of the previous king of Italy, had been imprisoned by Berengar of Ivrea, a rival who sought to claim the Lombard crown. Otto's marriage to Adelaide was not only a personal union, but a political one. By rescuing her from captivity and marrying her, Otto gained a legitimate claim to the Italian throne, further intertwining the fates of Germany and Italy. With Adelaide by his side, Otto launched his first Italian campaign, asserting his rule over the Lombard kingdom and solidifying his influence in northern Italy. But Italy was not a land easily tamed. Berengar of Ivrea, a cunning and ambitious noble, was not willing to relinquish his hold on the region without a fight. Otto's campaigns in Italy were marked by a series of conflicts, with Berengar leading a resistance that threatened to destabilize Otto's newly won territories. The northern Italian lords, with their long-standing rivalries and shifting allegiances, made governance a complex affair. Yet Otto, with his military prowess and strategic mind, managed to bring the rebellious Berengar to heel. By 961 AD, Otto had successfully subdued northern Italy, and Berengar, once a formidable adversary, was captured and imprisoned for the rest of his life. The marriage between Otto and Adelaide had far-reaching consequences beyond military victories. Their union strengthened Otto's position both in Germany and Italy, as Adelaide's influence among the Italian nobility helped secure the loyalty of key figures in the region. This alliance also provided Otto with a valuable partner in governance. Adelaide was not a passive queen. She was a skilled diplomat and a key advisor to Otto. Together, they ruled over a realm that stretched from the German heartlands to the sunlit plains of Italy, a kingdom united under their shared vision of peace protection to the church while ensuring that its influence did not challenge his own. In 962 AD, Pope John XIV crowned Otto as Holy Roman Emperor, a moment that cemented his dominance over both secular and religious matters in Europe. But Otto's relationship with the papacy was not without its challenges. Pope John, a man of questionable morality and ambition, soon found himself at odds with the emperor. Otto, unwilling to allow the church to undermine his authority, took swift action. He deposed John XIV, replacing him with a more compliant pope, one who would respect the balance of power that Otto had carefully constructed. This act of deposing a pope was unprecedented, but it signalled Otto's resolve to maintain control over Rome and the Papal States. Otto's rule in Italy was defined by this delicate balance of power, as the annals of Quedlinburg record. With a firm hand, Otto ruled in Italy, neither bending to the lords of the south nor the church in Rome. His governance was one of careful diplomacy and calculated force, ensuring that both the secular lords and the clergy understood their place within his empire. Italy, with its rich history and complex politics, had long been a land where kings had struggled to maintain control. But Otto, through a combination of marriage, military strength, and religious influence, succeeded where many had failed before him. Yet, Italy was only one part of Otto's vast empire. His conquests and alliances in the south were a testament to his ambition, but they were also part of a larger plan to unify Christendom under his rule. As emperor, Otto had created an empire that stretched across Central Europe, one that balanced the needs of the church with the demands of governance. But his reign was far from over. With Italy securely under his control, Otto's attention would soon turn to consolidating his rule as emperor and ensuring the legacy he had built would endure for generations to come. Otto the Great's reign as Holy Roman Emperor was more than just a series of military victories and territorial expansions. It was the beginning of a new political order that would shape Central Europe for centuries. After securing his authority in Germany and Italy, Otto turned his attention to building a strong, centralised government, one that could withstand the challenges of an ever-changing medieval world. His genius lay in his ability to blend church and state into a single entity, using the power of religion to reinforce his political control. One of Otto's most significant reforms was his use of bishops as imperial administrators. The church, with its widespread influence and vast wealth, became an extension of Otto's government. Unlike the secular nobility, who often sought independence, bishops were loyal to Otto because he controlled their appointments. This allowed him to place trusted clergy in key positions across his empire, ensuring that his laws were enforced and his policies carried out. Bishops became both spiritual leaders and political officials, governing territories on behalf of the emperor. In this way, system of governance that was both efficient and stable, reducing the threat of rebellion from the powerful German dukes while strengthening the unity of the empire. Otto's reign laid the foundation for what would become the Holy Roman Empire, a political entity that would dominate Central Europe for centuries. His efforts to centralize power and integrate the church into the governance of the empire created a model that future emperors would follow. The Holy Roman Empire, though never a unified nation in the modern sense, became a network of territories bound together by loyalty to the emperor and the Christian faith. Otto's vision of a Christian empire where church and state worked in harmony would resonate throughout the medieval world. Beyond his reforms at home, Otto was also a shrewd diplomat. His reign saw the establishment of important ties with the Byzantine Empire, one of the most powerful and influential states of the time. Otto understood that to secure his legacy, he needed to look beyond the borders of the Holy Roman Empire and engage with other great powers. His diplomatic efforts included marriage alliances that linked his family to the Byzantine court, further cementing his status as a ruler of international significance. Otto's son, Otto the Great, would later marry Theophanu, a Byzantine princess, in a union that symbolized the blending of Eastern and Western imperial traditions. This alliance with Byzantium not only strengthened Otto's position in Europe, but also brought cultural and intellectual exchanges that enriched his court. Otto's patronage of the church went beyond mere politics. He was deeply committed to the religious unification of his empire, supporting monasteries and religious institutions that played a key role in spreading Christianity across his territories. Under Otto's reign, monasteries became centres of learning and cultural revival, continuing the legacy of the Carolingian Renaissance. The Ottonian Renaissance, as it came to be known, saw the flourishing of art, architecture, and scholarship, much of it inspired by Otto's desire to create a Christian empire that reflected both spiritual and intellectual greatness. As Otto's reign neared its end, he had secured a legacy that would outlive him. In 973 AD, after decades of rule, Otto the Great passed away, leaving the empire he had built to his son, Otto II. His death marked the end of an era, but the empire remained strong, a testament to the foundations Otto had laid. The Chronicle of Regina of Prum captures the moment. Otto, the great protector of the realm, laid to rest, but his empire remained strong, a monument to his wisdom. Otto II inherited not just a kingdom, but an empire bound together by his father's vision of unity through faith and governance. Otto's legacy would live on in the Holy Roman Empire, an entity that would dominate the political landscape of Europe for centuries to come. His efforts to balance the powers of church and state, his diplomatic brilliance, and his patronage of religious and cultural life ensured that his reign would be remembered as one of the most transformative in medieval history. As we reflect on his achievements, it becomes clear that Otto's true greatness lay not just in his ability to conquer, but in his ability to create a lasting legacy, a legacy that shaped the very nature of kingship and empire in the medieval world. As the mantle of power passed to Otto II, the weight of the empire rested on new shoulders, but the structures that Otto the Great had built ensured that the empire would endure. His influence reached beyond the borders of his kingdom, leaving an imprint on Europe's political, religious, and cultural landscapes. But even as the empire carried on, the challenges ahead were significant, as Otto II would soon discover. As we bring Otto the Great's story to a close, it's impossible not to marvel at the scope of his achievements. He was not merely a king, but a visionary ruler who forever altered the course of medieval Europe. Through his strategic brilliance and unrelenting resolve, Otto united the fractured German duchies, extended his influence into Italy, and established the Holy Roman Empire, a political entity that would shape Central European politics for nearly 1,000 years. His victory over the Magyars at the Battle of Lechfeld secured the borders of Christendom, shielding Europe from external threats and solidifying his reputation as a protector of the faith. Otto's reign was more than just a series of military conquests. His legacy lies in his ability to weave together the threads of church and state, creating a unified empire grounded in both spiritual and secular power. By appointing bishops as imperial administrators, Otto not only strengthened his hold on his territories, but also set a precedent for future emperors to rule with the church as an ally. His vision of a Christian empire, one where learning and faith flourished side by side, sparked a cultural renaissance that echoed the heights of Charlemagne's reign. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Otto's legacy is how it continued to influence the political and religious landscape of Europe long after his death. The Holy Roman Empire, which he revived, became a cornerstone of European politics, and the system he created endured for centuries. His diplomatic efforts with Byzantium, his consolidation of power, and his reforms within the church were not fleeting victories. They were the foundations of an empire that would stand the test of time. Otto's influence can still be felt in the very structure of European governance, where the balance between church and state continues to be a central theme in political discourse. As we reflect on Otto's reign, we see a leader who shaped more than just his kingdom. He shaped the future. His impact stretched across borders, generations, and even centuries, leaving behind an indelible mark on European history. It is through figures like Otto that we come to understand the deep and complex roots of the medieval world, where politics, faith, and warfare intertwined to forge the path of a continent. If Otto the Great's story has inspired you, I encourage you to think about how his actions, decisions, and vision shaped the Europe we know today. His reign shape